Hi, I'm Kimberly Butler. Welcome to my vlog, Trivialization of the Medium. We speak to Juan Williams, Geraldo Rivera, and Bob Simon of 60 Minutes.
Getting back to McLuhan, he's talking about the medium dominating how the content is delivered, if not overwhelming the facts, the content itself. So let's look at TV for a second. What has TV become?
Most of what's on television is intended to be entertainment. It has been that way since television in America. We made a decision we're going to have mostly commercial television and that most of it's going to be entertainment. Edgar Almora talked about it in 1958-59.
100 years from now, and there should be preserved the kinescopes of 1 week of all 3 networks. They will there find, recorded in black and white and in color, evidence of decadence, escapism, and insulation from the realities of the world in which we live. We are currently wealthy, fat, comfortable, and complacent.
In the beginning, you had entertainment values, and by the way, entertainment is of value to a society, to a people, to a culture, but it has its set of values. News, which I consider to be free, truly independent news, fiercely independent news when necessary, is the red beating heart of freedom and democracy. So what you have now, what's happening in news is directly related to what's been happening in the entertainment industry. We say the superficiality.
The Huffington Post, you will never miss an opportunity to roll a bikini slideshow. I mean, that's one of the ways that they keep in business, and one of the ways that they're able to sport then, some more thinky, politically focused blogs that is important to the discourse.
The value of a news story today is now determined based upon what producers think will get the largest audience. Period. End of sentence. And what television and overnight ratings has done is created essentially these focus groups for news stories, which I think is incredibly insidious. A cable news show, and in some cases the broadcast networks, will do a story on a missing white hot chick that they think might resonate, and they'll look at the overnight ratings, and if they get a pop, they keep going with the story. And if they don't get a pop, if the focus group doesn't like it, if the kids aren't cute enough, or she's not hot enough, or whatever it is, then they'll just drop it.
Part of what's wrong with journalism as a whole, and yes, I will say particularly American journalism, and I do not accept myself from this criticism, is that in so many instances, it isn't quality journalism of integrity presented as a public service. There's been the trivialization of the news, the politicalization of the news.
Your senator from the great state of Illinois, Barack Obama, ladies and gentlemen.
And the corporatization of the news, which has lowered the standards all around. Now this goes back to McLuhan, because it is, in a newsroom, for example, someone would say, listen, we should lead today with what's happening in Russia or China. And somebody else say, you can't lead with that today, that is, make it your main story today. Everybody's talking about Britney Spears going off the wagon again.
Soft journalism has always been popular. I'll tell you a story. I spent a year in Vietnam. I was there more than that.
Bob Simon covered that war for CBS News and recently returned to Vietnam. Tonight he begins the first of a series of...
On my way back to New York, I stopped off in Ireland and did a very light story about a town called Watertown where there wasn't any water. The only thing people asked me about was Watertown and why there wasn't any water in Watertown, and slapped me on the back and saying that was a great story you did out of Watertown. Nobody asked me about Vietnam. Nobody wanted to talk about Vietnam. Light stories have always been popular.
The media has always had to say, we have to have our candy and our peas and carrots. How much of this is going to be ice cream and how much of this is going to be broccoli? Because people don't want to eat broccoli all the time. Sometimes they want ice cream. And if your goal is to have people pay attention when you have something really important for them to hear, then what you want to do is create a position where they're going to be listening to in the first place.
I think the line between entertainment and journalism, first of all, has been around for a long time now. Walter Cronkite was decrying that. Edward R. Murrow was decrying that a long, long time ago. The conflict between entertainment and journalism is most pronounced, obviously, in local news. There you really see news being reported not there, but in many examples of local news, you see news being reported by people who are just sitting at a desk and very little news from real reporters on the outside.
So what do you want now?
Well, if I have to teach you how to be a reporter, Ollie, I'll do that later.
Oh, why don't you do that later, Jim? I think the lady expressed herself, and you're not here, you're there.
A lot of that, in TV at least, in my opinion, dates back to the whole blow-dry anchor era where appearance became everything and content suffered, and I specifically blame the live trucks.
We're out here live to
I
show
think
you
the live
how we go
trucks
live with the microwave truck or the satellite
original
truck.
Investigative television journalism. People became more interested in let me take you live to the scene, where that process trumped the real job of gathering information.
I think you could make a very strong argument that the downfall of Western civilization began the first time a TV newscaster put on makeup. And then because then it's a slippery slope all the way to where we are. From that first they put on makeup, then they're hired based upon their looks as part of the equation. Then they're hired if they're a female based completely on their looks, almost completely on their looks, which is the rule more than the exception today.
If you have an attractive anchor man and an attractive anchor woman, that's all you need. And it's one of the reasons you see so much, particularly in local news, but you see it ever increasingly in cable and satellite news and network news. It's, look, we can close bureaus all over the world. We can do with far fewer reporters if we just get the right anchor team up there, and if the anchor team will not deal with anything controversial, not probe, not investigate, not try to speak truth to power, not try to find out important things that people need to know that somebody somewhere in power doesn't want them to know. And McLuhan and The Medium is a Message, I think, was a precursor. He was a prophet, if you will, of what we're going through today. Let's wipe out the investigative unit. Let's cut out our City Hall reporter. Let's stop covering the state legislature. Keep your costs down, Mr. or Mrs. News Director. Keep your costs down, get your demographics up, get your ratings up, and forget about all this quality news of integrity business.
The reality is people can live their entire existence, watch television all the time, and get no real news anymore. They get fluff. I think at its best, television still can unify, but it's very, very rare. At its worst, it divides, and and with regard to news, I think maybe the most dangerous thing it has done is it has allowed people to be under the delusion that they're informed when in fact they're really not. They think they're getting information and they're not. It's not substantive and it's not accurate.
When network news started to make stories out of Dancing with the Stars.
Talk about some dirty dancing. There was some dirty dancing on Fox the other night, this popular reality show. Talk about overexposure. It's right here. We'll slow it down for you and we'll try not to get...
Wait a minute, that's a promo. That's not a news story. My job becomes much harder as a viewer if I want to be informed, because I now have to solicit so many different sources to try and get the whole story, because I'm not getting the whole story from one.
What are they trying to get me to believe? Whether it's advertising, entertainment, or news, what are they trying to get me to believe?
To question the message.
To question the message and to realize that the medium is deeply embedded with the message, and so deeply embedded that the medium can greatly influence how the message is perceived.
Thanks for watching. Join us next time for part 2 of Trivialization of the Medium, The Pundits.